Welcome to the Maasto Fitness podcast. Today in episode 14, we are going to talk about a racer's case study. So this is a quick hit podcast where we keep them short and to the point, focusing on the things you can do off the bike to race faster and safer. At Maasto Fitness, we work with racers remotely in the real world when they have a life full of commitments and don't have a lot of time to train off the bike or ride. We provide training off the bike, so days on the bike, whether riding or racing, are faster and safer. So like I said, today we are going to do a case study about a racer I work with. And this is a kind of a multi-year case study, but don't worry, we're going to still keep it short and concise like we always do. So this racer, we're going to call him John. And really, as I do these case studies, I'm just going to call everyone John if they're a male or Jane if they're a female, simple as that. So let's go ahead and set it up here. So first, this racer, he's been racing for years, probably been racing 5 or 6 years before he started working with Maasto Fitness. Worked his way from beginner to intermediate to mid-pack intermediate, or B class if you want to call it. And that's where we came together. He was starting to get a little bit more competitive racing and just wasn't feeling awesome about where he was at. He thought, he should be doing better. He could be doing better. He was really kicking butt early in the races, but late in the race, he was fading. So early on, had the speed, felt good. Late in the race, fatigue starts to set in, form goes away, and speed goes away. So he found himself late in the race, just not having good form, falling a lot, crashing a lot, or more than he would like to. And then, and with that, just getting kind of slowing down as the race went on and feeling like he was getting beat by people he should beat. So we started working together over the winter. This would be the winter of 2020 to 21, so 21, 22. So we started working together. Now, the year before this, the race we're going to talk about this. So in 2021, for this race, he pulled off on the white flag lap. This is going to be a hare scramble, and for a hare scramble, I would say it's pretty tough in the sense that it's all pretty tight woods, not very fast, and so it's pretty technical and doesn't offer a lot of relief. You're pretty much constantly zigging through trees. There's not a lot of sections where maybe you can get like a quick breather. So pretty tight technical hare scramble, and one that runs about 3 hours, sometimes a little more. So the first year, this is before he worked with us at Maasto Fitness, the white flag lap came out, and he pulled off. He was like, I'm done. I cannot do another lap of that. So that was 2021. And then winter 21, 22, he joined Maasto Fitness. We started working together, started working on building his base. Simply put, building his base, we just started working the aerobic engine. We started doing really consistent zone 2 training. This is like a RPE 4 or so on a scale of 1 to 10. If 1's walking, 10 is all out. A 4 is kind of like a long endurance effort, something you can sustain for hours in theory as you get fitter. So we started working on building a zone 2 base, which helped build mitochondria, which essentially are the powerhouse of the cell. More mitochondria we have in our muscles, the better we are off. And we started developing his aerobic system. Then on the strength side, we started with foundation, just getting him through the proper movements, making sure he can take his body through range of motion, start to add in a little bit of weight training on top of that. First, we want to make sure we really are doing the movements correctly and can take our body through the ranges of motion before we stack on the stressors. So started there. And then we started working on flexibility, mobility through sessions we have called performance care, and then yoga sessions as well. So started building that foundation. And when we came into the 22 race season, and he was a world fitter than he's ever been. His riding stayed the same. He pretty much always rides once a week. Not on race weeks, he might not have a chance to also ride, but pretty much he's on his bike once a week. That's how it works with his life and family and everything else. So came into the 22 race season. Things are good, off to a good start. And we get to this race, the race that was like the tough one in 2021, the one where he pulled off in the white flag. Now 2022, still same gnarly technical single track that's just never ending, no relief. And the race once again ran 3 hours. But this time, instead of pulling off on the white flag, he felt good on the final lap, like he'd wanted to feel the year before, fast on the first lap, fast on the last lap. So he was able to charge and continue on and ended up finishing on the podium. So awesome. So he went from pulling off a lap early in 2021 to 2022, finishing on the podium. So a lot of factors here, of course, always, but I would say fitness is working. He's being consistent, sticking to the program. And all that work he did over the winter and in the spring has paid off. And now this summer race, like it's like in June, paid off, and he's fit and strong and has a great race. So we continue on the year, has, anyone's normal race season. We have good races, we have bad races, but as a whole, he's definitely doing better than the year before. Postseason hits, we start working on off-season work. During an in-season, we switch things up a little bit depending on how much racing the racer is doing. So did a bit of in-season work where we're still building a little bit of fitness, but a lot of times we're maintaining when they're racing a decent amount, which this racer is. So we get to the postseason, start building for 2023. So over that winter, he's been a Maasto Fitness racer for coming up on almost a year and a half at this point. So we're able to start kind of stacking on the next layer of stressors. We can do more intensity. We can do longer duration. We can do weight training that has more weight and that has more complex movements because he's built up all those proper things over his consistency with Maasto Fitness, the day in, day out training, making sure to get it in. So we're able to stack all those stressors, get them even stronger, take them to the next level. And then 2023 season starts, come out, things are looking good. We get to this race again, the race that was a pull-off one year, then a podium the next year. And then here we are, 2023, he wins the race. So he gets his first ever B-class win at this race, which is awesome because, it's just crazy to think the progression at this course over the years. Racing the same class all 3 years, an age group B class, we'll call it. It goes from that pulling off the track to a podium to getting his win. So awesome to see the hard work pay off. And I think a great example because it's a course that it's just gnarly. It's a tough one. It's got so much twisty, tight single track, and it's like never ending. You feel like there's not a second. I mean, this course I know well. I feel like there's not a second to grab my hydrator sometimes because there's always like a root, a tree, a branch, something that just has you constantly deflecting and moving all around. So there in 2023, he gets his win on the course that really defeated him 2 years ago. So I feel like this is a great example of how consistent training can help you progress. And that consistency is so important. If you think of anything you've accomplished in your life, it probably didn't happen overnight. If you're a student, anything you've learned, you just don't learn all at once. It's a progression of building on top of things and learning more. And we can't just absorb it all at once. And training is the same way. We need to stack all of that and be consistent day in and day out to make our bodies stronger and more resilient and better at dealing with training stressors. So we're better to deal with race stressors. And then same thing in the real world. I'm sure probably any career you're in, if you're listening to this, you probably didn't learn how to do it overnight. I know for me, I've been an endurance coach for a decade now, and it's a constant learning. I'm always learning something new. I'm always trying to find new ways and more efficient ways to help racers train. And just with anything else, you're always learning, always evolving, and that's exactly how training works. So it's not just put in a solid week of work, have a solid race, put in a solid week of work, have a solid race. It's really years of continuing and building that fitness to help you be more resilient, faster, and stronger. So I feel like this was a perfect case study here. I'm going to try to start doing these every couple of weeks to give good examples of how training has helped racers become more efficient and be able to race stronger while not changing time on the bike, because a lot of us, we live in urban environments. We can't just go out our back door and go do some hot laps. I know for me, I think my neighbors already just love it when I do all the maintenance to my bike and go up and down the road. I can't imagine how they'd feel if I was just ripping around in our yard every day. So we don't get a lot of time oftentimes on the bike was my point there. And so training off the bike can really help bridge that gap. So days on the bike, you're fitter, faster, and safer, which is our number one goal here at Maasto Fitness. Now, next week, we're actually going to dive a little bit more into consistency and talk about the science behind consistency and what that means. Because being consistent, it's just we can't really make the next level of our fitness without consistency. So consistency is a big one. We're going to dive into that more next week. And at Maasto Fitness, we build strength, endurance, and mobility training for racers. We have tons of hydration and nutrition guides. We have a monthly group Zoom call where any racer can join to get their questions answered. So we've got a lot of resources for racers. And if you want to give it a try, send me a message on Instagram and I'll hook you up with a free week of our single jump training program. See you guys later.